Let's get some perspective now from Washington Post columnist Josh Rogin. Josh, thanks for being with us. So President Biden says he's made a decision on the U.S. response. He wouldn't go into detail. What do you anticipate this will look like?
Right. Well, reading the tea leaves based on what President Biden said and what he was indicating, it seems as if he's backing away from the most aggressive option, which would be a direct, at least overt attack inside of Iran. If you had to guess, it would be that they've decided to attack Iranian-backed militias in places like Syria and Iraq, but not actually cross that Rubicon and attack inside Iran. I think that makes sense considering what he said and what we know about what's going on inside of the administration. Now, the good news, I guess you could say, is that there's plenty of good targets, plenty of Iranian-backed Shia militiamen trying to kill Americans all over the region. Syria is the easiest place to attack them. Iraq is a little bit more tricky. Lebanon, a little bit more tricky. Yemen. So I think you'll see a wide array of attacks, but I don't think they're going to go attack Iran. I could be wrong, but that seems to be what Biden's telling us.
What do you make of this passive-aggressive foreign policy by Iran? They don't want a direct conflict with the United States, but they're happy to see their proxies kill Americans and others in the region. What do you think it would actually take to deter Tehran?
Right. Well, there's two things going on. One is, can the response stop the attacks? And that's a mix of deterrence and actually killing the people who are trying to kill Americans. And, one way is to, scare Iran into telling the proxies to stop. The other way is to kill the guys who are trying to kill Americans. So I think you need a combination of those things, frankly. More broadly, I think the administration is going to have to recognize that these attacks are coordinated and related to what's going on in Israel and Gaza. There's just no two ways about it. The Islamic resistance of Iraq, which is what these groups now call themselves, is expressly stating when they claim credit for these attacks that it's related to Israel and Gaza. So in their minds, it is. So, deterrence is important, like sort of mowing the lawn of the terrorists and getting rid of a few of them that are attacking us. That's important, but also finding a larger solution to the regional war. That would also be a really big help.
You hit on a significant point, and that is this sort of semantics game that the administration wants to put forward. They don't want to explicitly say that these incidents are all tied to what's going on in Gaza. Why is that? Why not just acknowledge that this is part of a proxy battle that's been going on even before October 7th?
Right. I mean, I don't think anyone's buying it anymore. I think when the attackers say this is related to Israel and Gaza, you have to sort of take them at their word on that. I guess the administration doesn't want to do it, acknowledge it, because it means that they would have to think about how their policy of supporting the Israeli actions in Gaza is affecting the security of U.S. troops in other countries. And that relationship is there, whether they like it or not. But once they admit it, well, then they're sort of acknowledging that in order to fix one, they sort of have to fix the other. They don't have answers for either one. So I get why they don't want to admit it, but it seems kind of silly, frankly, because obviously they're related.
On that point, you published an op-ed arguing that President Biden pulling funding from UNRWA is inhumane and a mistake. The White House is responding to allegations that a dozen members of that relief agency participated in the October 7th attacks against Israel. How do you think the White House should then approach this?
Right. I mean, to be clear, anybody, including UN employees who participated in acts of terror or other crimes on October 7th, deserve to be punished. What I'm arguing here is that, the action that the administration took before the investigation is complete will definitely result in a lot less food, medicine, and health supplies and water going to 1 million starving children in southern Gaza who didn't do anything wrong. 13,000 UN employees, 12 of them may very well be guilty and deserve whatever punishment they've earned. But the other 12,900 employees, so far we don't know that they did anything wrong, and all of the Gazan children definitely didn't do anything wrong. So I argue that defunding the aid organization that's keeping thousands of people alive is not only kind of cruel, but will have the opposite effect, because it'll just make the problem worse and push the burden onto other countries like Israel and Jordan and Lebanon and make solving all these problems much harder and deepen the suffering of these people. 1 in 4 people in Gaza is starving, and so I don't think this is the time to pull the rug out from under their safety net, despite the fact that these 12 UN employees deserve to answer for their actions.
Josh, while we have you, I want to get your take on this exclusive reporting to CNN that Chinese leader Xi Jinping told President Biden that Beijing would not interfere in the 2024 election. Biden apparently the one who brought it up in conversation. You have extensively covered Xi and the CCP and their aggressiveness over the last few decades. Should President Biden put any stock into those assurances?
Right. I mean, it's kind of what you would. It's an interesting detail of their inside meetings. Great reporting, but isn't that kind of what you would expect him to say? What's he going to say? Oh yeah, I'm definitely going to interfere. And Biden's like, are you going to interfere? Absolutely. No. I mean, he's going to deny it. And let's remember that Xi Jinping has a long track record of lying to American presidents. He lied to President Obama about militarizing the South China Sea. He lied to President Trump about there's no genocide. And so, yeah, I think you have to, based on all of the evidence, assume that he's lying. And of course, Chinese government's already interfering in American politics in a number of ways on both sides to promote chaos and undermine our democracy to advance their cause of reshaping the global order to make it safe for their system, for the autocratic system. So I think that ship has kind of sailed, but, interesting that he's still claiming that it's not true.
Josh Rogin, always great to chat, man.
Anytime.
Of course.